Good evening, everyone. We have a quorum and we have one member, Councilor Roman, who's let me know he will be arriving at around 7 p.m. So I will call the meeting of the Ordinance Committee to order, this being Tuesday, January 23rd at 6:30. With me, I have Councilor Lisi, Councilor Anderson Burgos, I'm Councilor Vacan, and Councilor David Bartley. Not seeing any other councilors in the chambers. So we have before us minutes that have been previously sent for 12/12/17 and 1/9/18. Under item 1, is there anybody?
I'll make a motion to receive and approve the prior meeting minutes.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the minutes for 12/12/17 and 1/9/18 are approved. Everyone should have received the minutes for 11/28 from Ryan Allen today, but I'm sure, we haven't had adequate time to review them, to take action on them at this point. Okay?
I'll make a motion to take items, you want to do 2 and 3?
Yes, please.
2 and 3 off the table. Okay, it's a package, suspend the rules, take as a package, and open the public hearing.
It would be continued.
Continue the public hearing.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So item 2 is a special permit application for the Parlor Faded Company LLC for a 4.7.2 non-conforming use at 230 Sargent Street, map 089, block 00, parcel 017. Item 3 is a special permit application for Forward Change Experience, doing business as Hobby Quest for a 4.7.2 non-conforming use at 226 Sargent Street, map 089, block 00, parcel 017. So we had opened up the public hearing at our last meeting and continued it to tonight. There was going to be some outreach done in the neighborhood, and we had some questions around discretion under the 4.7.2 ordinances by the committee that we were seeking clarification on. I did receive a communication today from Marcos Moreros and Damian Cody, and I just printed it out off my email. I got it today. I don't even know what time it came. I got it at home at like 5 o'clock. So that's the best I can tell you. But I can read it into the record. It's not really long, so we'll be able to have full discussion of it and address it. I don't think we'll have a problem with that. In the interest of continuing the public hearing, Councilor McGivern has joined us. I guess I would like to hear from the applicant as to what feedback was received from the neighbors, because one of the discretionary aspects of this is whether it would be more or less detrimental to the neighborhood than the previous activities. And Councilor LeBron Martinez has joined us. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we did have on January 21st, which was this past Sunday, a open house where we invited neighbors to come out. That flyer that you see was in both Spanish and English, and we invited the neighbors to come out, ask questions, kind of learn a little bit more about us. We do have a sign-in sheet of who came. I can give that to you as well. One of the neighbors is actually here, and so we pretty much explained what our businesses are, that we're community focused, and we want to make sure that we are mindful of the neighbors as well. And we got a lot of positive feedback, and they want to see us in the neighborhood.
Okay. Are there any questions of the committee or councilors for the applicant at this moment? Okay. Okay. And I would also like to offer to members of the public at this point to come to the microphone, give your name and address, and speak either in favor or against the project. if you're here for this public hearing, if there's anybody who would like to. I'm sorry? Yes.
So I just want to say a few words. My name is James Ryan. My address is actually 709 Main Road in Chesterfield, Mass. However, I am one of the owners of the property, and my office is in West Springfield, and we have substantial holdings throughout different areas of Holyoke. The only couple things I wanted to talk about tonight, only because they were kind of lingering from the last meeting. So one of the concerns that was brought up by Councilor Lisi, and one of the concerns that was brought up by Councilor Bartley, was parking. So all we can do is kind of deal with what we have. But we did do some scoping out around the property, and Antonia had provided some pictures. From the pictures, you can see to the right of 230 Sargent Street, there's parking for 4 vehicles. And in the back of the property, there's parking for an additional 4 vehicles. So that would be a total of 8 off-street spaces. Typically during the day, and those pictures were taken on a weekday, the tenants upstairs are generally gone, and they return after business hours in the evening. There may be a car or two sometimes, but it's really not the norm. The other thing we looked at was the availability of on-street parking. And to the side of the building, on the corner of Magnolia and Sargent Street, there's 51 feet of space, which would allow for 3 additional vehicles on street. And across the street, also on Magnolia, yes, that's along the side of the building. But then on the opposite corner, also on Magnolia, there's a home on Sargent with a double lot, that one. And that homeowner does have a garage and a driveway off of Magnolia, but from the corner to his or her driveway, there's 69 feet. So that would be parking for an additional 4 cars. And again, these areas are, provided this space is occupied, it'll be more busy than it is, but right now there really is no congestion. And then the other areas we looked at was the dead-end portion of Magnolia Street heading towards the cemetery. And again, there's quite a bit of on-street parking. And the only other thought I had, and this is as I was going around the city or in that general area, there may be other steps the city could take. For example, I know in front of the variety store, there are 2 parking signs that limit parking to 15 minutes, maybe to keep people moving. And then a couple blocks down Sargent Street heading towards Beach, there was ironically a barbershop use. I don't know if it was always been a barbershop, but some retail use. No off-street parking, and at that location, there were 2 other city posted signs that mentioned made use or parking for 30 minutes only. So it looked like there were some strategies that the city could use. And then the last thing that we talked about was because of where they're looking to situate specifically, or more importantly, the barber shop, it's in a relatively densely populated neighborhood. And already a lot of existing clients live in that particular ward. And it's not unrealistic to think that several could walk to that location. In other words, it's a neighborhood business where you're not driving to a destination, a mall or a strip mall, and you need so much parking. So those were just, I guess we tried to address some of the concerns and maybe try to explain some of it away, and also couple that with the thought or the expectation that a number of the clients will in fact be able to walk to this location. They're not going to be driving from Chicopee, for example.
Right.
I don't think. But so that's really all I had to say regarding the proposal. I've been here before, but it's really on them. But I just wanted to address the parking in particular because that was brought up by at least two people.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Johanna Hammer. I'm at 1 Magnolia Ave, which is the dead-end part of Magnolia, and we're really psyched. We went, our whole family went and saw the space and got a chance to hear about it. All our kids are really excited about, they're already planning their careers in fashion, and we've all got hair, and so we're really excited about having a place to go to deal with that issue as well. But I think, we're just really enthusiastic about having the spaces occupied and having a nice family business around. I think that's really cool. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you. And if you had a sense of the other neighbors that attended the open house at all?
Everybody seemed really positive. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think all of us would just like to see, some businesses coming in and again, just like, I think it's a great use of the space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I've had a request from the members of the committee because I did receive a correspondence late in the day by the time I had a chance to read it. This is dated today and it is from Damian Cody, our building commissioner, and it's regarding the special permit application. And so it's to the committee, it's addressed to the council, but it's really to our committee. The applications before you are a request for a special permit for non-conforming use. The reason that they are before you is because our department found that the 2 storefronts, commercial use, vacated. The property is within the R2 zone, which does not allow for business use as of right. Once a non-conforming use is changed from one to another, or in this case ceased between 2 tenants, it is decided by the council what can or cannot take place in these spaces. Unfortunately, 4.7.2 does not give detailed guidance on this. However, the idea is that the council does not allow a use that is more detrimental. What is detrimental to one person may not be to the other. This decision can include restrictions such as operating hours and conditions, such as limit on number of employees needing parking. In terms of my suggestion, I would question what the last known legal uses were and what impacts they would have had on the surrounding area. This would include things like hours of operation, vehicle trips, parking needs, noise level, odor productions, and the like. From there, you can take the former impact and compare it to the proposed. If you find it per 4.7.2 number 2 less detrimental, then grant the special permit. It should be pointed out that in a case like this, there is no logical use of the spaces other than commercial. If they were not allowed commercial of some kind, then they still could not build these out for residential without a special permit. The zone being R2 allows only 1 to 2 family homes. In addition, the special permit, the conversion, in addition to the special permit, the conversion to residential will trigger numerous building code upgrades that would otherwise not be required. If you have any further questions, please feel free to call or email. Sincerely, Damian Cody, Building Commissioner. So that, I think, gives us clarification from that department. And we also had, and Crystal, I may need to rely on you to review this for us. We had forwarded to us a prior opinion that had been drafted by Kara Cunha. And my recollection of that opinion was that there was some discretion within that portion of the zoning. But if someone will make a motion to suspend rules, I'll ask Crystal come up and address that opinion.
You don't have a communication from Marcos, though? I thought you had mentioned that Marcos sent a communication as well.
The only communication I remember seeing from Marcos was that he referred to the portion of the ordinance, the 4-point section, and just said that it gave discretion.
Okay.
It was very brief.
Thanks. So motion to suspend the necessary rules and now allow legal to approach us?
Can I have a second?
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
So Crystal, I did receive the forward, and I did print it, but I'm just not immediately.
So this was an opinion given back in November of 2016 from Sarah Carroll, the Assistant City Solicitor at the time. Between this letter and the letter from our building commissioner, basically it's stating that the best use of this property is going to be commercial unless they want to make the switch over to residential. Really, it's leaving it up to the council because there is no stipulation on what happens when a non-conforming structure gets abandoned. In this instance, it's not used for a period of 2 years. Does it lose its protective status as an entire building, or is it just the partial of the building? So in this case, the bottom is commercial, the top is residential. So if the bottom is no longer being used as that non-conforming use of commercial space, does it then convert back to residential? And it's kind of silent on how that works when a building is being used as half and half. So I would defer to the building commissioner in stating that you have to look at what that commercial space was being used at as prior to what the permit is before you, and determine whether or not what your applicants are looking for is going to be more detrimental or less detrimental than what that building was prior, what the building's prior use was.
Are there any further questions? I see Counselor Leahy has joined us. Thank you. So it appears that we have discretion in this regard, and so what might be helpful is just to review the prior uses to what is proposed. Counselor Lisi?
Thank you. Kind of just going off the communications that we had from our legal department and also from the building department, it seems that keeping the bottom 2 units commercial makes the most sense, not only for the building, but also for the neighborhood. The building in particular, again, from what I understand, to convert the bottom 2 units from commercial to residential requires another special permit and residential upgrades that this current use that they're seeking does not require. So I think it puts an undue burden on the property owner to require residential. So I think that I'm very comfortable saying I'd like to move forward with commercial uses. I do, as I mentioned at the last meeting, think that these projects are really a good fit for the neighborhood, and some of my concerns are just going to come out in the conditions that we place on the special permit in terms of, again, the parking, perhaps even limiting the number of chairs. I mean, right now you're looking for 4 chairs, meaning, 4 employees, so maybe we play with that for a while, and then if you need to expand the business later on, you come back in for an amendment to the special permit. But these are the things, hours of operation, I think we could limit. And then, I think for now we could say you could use the on-street parking, and then if it does become a problem for the neighborhood, I'm sure we could also work to revisit and amend some of those concerns if they are raised.
So we did take into account that you said that last time, so we played around with some of the numbers, and so we thought that if it was okay, we would do 3 full-time and 1 part-time to limit that. Okay.
But it would still be a 4th chair, right? Even if you have somebody part-time, and they would need to.
They won't be there like the whole time, so there will still be more parking for neighbors.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's where I'm arriving at in this conversation, and with the information that we've gathered. I'm interested in hearing where other counselors may be in the, data acquisition and where we want to go from there. But that's the general direction that I think that I'm leaning.
Excuse me. Yep. Yes,
Counselor
sorry.
Anderson Burgos?
So my main concern, obviously, I spoke to a few residents, and it was parking, and that's all that they mentioned was parking. So one of the residents suggested to put a no parking sign. So
Where?
right in front of his house. So yeah.
Is it in one of these maps?
On Sargent, corner of Sargent. Let me see. Hold on. Can't see it from It is right around the corner from here. It's right across the street from here. I just don't know the number.
Well, it would have to be a separate order filed anyhow.
Yeah, right.
So that concern is noted, but as it's been noted, that would be a separate kind of an order and not something we could address within the context of this request. Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, okay, so, Mr. Ryan, did you want to add something before I question?
I was just gonna mention, oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna mention you had, the question was asked was what the last legal uses were for those spaces and how they would compare with new spaces. So
So if they're comparable,
I could, from what I know or have been told, and maybe some of you know the same history, my understanding is that actually the individual was still in place when I bought the building. What he had going on at that stage, I don't really know. But at 230 Sargent Street, there was a Taekwondo instruction. And I think at some stage of this individual's teacher's life, he had a viable business. I don't know what happened towards the tail end, because by the time I arrived, he clearly wasn't teaching anybody in that space. The 226 space was at one point ceramics, so it must have been some type of studio teaching ceramic crafts. And I think another use in that same space, if I remember, I think it was some type of a consignment shop, maybe some very light retail. Interestingly, to show you how times change, apparently 226 Sargent Street back in the day was a pharmacy, and the space at 230 Sargent Street was a Cumberland Farms. It's amazing to think Cumberland Farms was in that building, but they were, yeah.
okay, thanks for,
Well, at least, and I think since then, and that was a
Reminding
long
us.
time ago, but there's been no use for quite some time.
Counselor Bartley?
Mr. Ryan, when did you buy the building? Just remind me, and how many residential units are in there?
So we bought the building in November of 2014. So we've owned it about going on 3.5 years. And there are 4 residential units, 2 on the second floor, left and right, and 2 on the third floor, left and right. The tenant on the second floor right, I think, has been in place for over 20 years at that location. And the third floor tenant has been there in place since before I owned the building. And the 2 on the left, I have a single woman on the third floor and I have a young couple on the second floor. So a very good tenant mix.
Okay, so there's a total of, obviously, six.
I have a total of
There's a total of 6 units in the building? So
two commercial and 4 residential, yes.
Right, so total of 6.
Oh, right, in the building.
Okay, all right, all right, thank you. And then just to the applicant, welcome back. So glad you could come back again. I think most of us are kind of happy to see some activity there. This looks like a little low impact. I think I told you before, it's parking, lights, noise, traffic. That's always what it is. That's like the big 4. So, with that in mind, I'm glad the neighbors are real happy to have you. Would they be happy with 15 cars parked all around there for 8 hours a day? I'm doubting that. And then that's when the Ward 6 councilor will start getting phone calls about limiting parking. And then you're going to see what happened in other wards. You're going to see, 10 signs go up. 15-minute parking here, or no parking Saturdays, all that nonsense. So that's why I think your first step here was an excellent one. I really commend you on your open house. So with that background, what are our hours that we want to have? Monday through what? Well, okay, okay. We'll start with the
Parlor
Faded.
business at 226 Sargent. What's the plan for that?
So my plan is to do 10 to 6, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday would be 9 to 5. But because we're office space and as well as workshops, the workshops are not throughout the day. So there would be like 1 hour blocks, and for the most part is where parents would bring their kids, and then they wouldn't be parking there. They would come back and pick them up. So that's where the parking would be limited there. So it wouldn't really be an issue. It's just that's would be our operating hours.
Okay,
And-
and just in the Hobby Quest, just explain that to me again?
Sure. So Hobby Quest is STEM enrichment programming. So we do STEM programs using aviation, magic, and fashion. And so right now we do after school, but after school is on site, and we have 3 programs running in the Holyoke Public Schools with the Connections program. And so we want to kind of open that up to like mommy and me's and daddy and me's, and just kind of bringing more STEM programming into the community.
Okay, did you say aviation?
Yes,
You said magic
and fashion.
and fashion. Okay, that's what I thought you said. Okay. And right now, you're operating in the Holyoke Public Schools?
Yep, that's one of our locations. With the Connections program, we have a magic program running in McMahon, a magic program in Ian White, and an aviation in Morgan. And this is our second session with the Connections program. We also have one in Springfield, and we have some camps that are going to be running in West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Handham, and Wilbraham.
Okay, and so you could see, so 7 days a week, basically?
Yeah, but
Okay, and then you're there, and then with one other person?
yes,
Okay, so, and you're both full-time?
one full-time, 2 part-time.
One, okay, one,
I'd be the full-time,
Gotcha.
and then 2 part-times.
all right, and then we'll, just finishing that with 226, you're thinking that you're gonna have, how many customers per regular business day? How many independent customers?
We're hoping if we have max, it would be 8 students
Got it.
at a time.
Okay, they're in 1 hour blocks, all right?
Yes.
Okay, 8 1 hour blocks, all right. And is there anything else you want to add about that I didn't ask you about the ongoing business at 226 Sergeant?
Other than that, we're really mindful of our neighbors, and we want to make sure that we're clear that we're going to be a community business. As a social worker, that being my background, I want to make sure that we provide the space as well to community events, meetings. I know the Holyoke Public Schools is doing initiatives to get back into the community, and we would love to be a part of that, both businesses,
Okay,
which we're already a part of, but we want to continue with.
all right. And then for 230 Sergeant Street, what's the, why don't we go through that? What are the proposed hours, days a week and hours for 230 Sergeant Street?
Okay, so I'll answer that as well. So it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday and Saturday, 9 to 5, and Thursday would be 10 to 6, and that is because typically in barbershops, you want to have a day with a longer hours to accommodate professionals who come out, who 9 to 5 doesn't work for them.
Okay, so barbershop not open Sunday and Monday, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and that's kind of typical. Okay, and I think you said 3 full-time and 1 part-time?
Yes.
Okay.
Council Bartley, were there more than one of these?
In each one, yes.
Yeah.
Say that again?
There's a little packet in each,
Oh, yeah, I know. It's just easy for me to.
and
just do
it
it
has
this
all
way.
the hours and everything listed.
Okay,
I
thank you.
didn't see that particular.
All right,
That's
thanks.
towards the back of the packet.
Okay. Okay, 3 full-time. Okay, and is this is it by appointment, or is it walk-ins, or both?
It's by appointment
Okay.
to start, mostly by appointment. I mean, might have maybe a neighbor or two come in if there's spot available, but for the most part, it's appointment only, and we already have an app set up as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
If you'd like it, I could give it to you later.
Is that on here, the app?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm asking some relevant questions. Okay, cool. All right, so, all right, is there anything that I didn't ask that you wanted to add relative to 230 Sergeant Street?
No,
Pretty much covered it?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just have one follow-up question. So if we were to consider the 2 businesses operational at the same time, at the peak busyness that you perceive right now, what would it look like between both businesses?
So being that him and I were going to go to work together, that's 1 car, and the 3 other or the 2.5, two other barbers. That would be 2 more vehicles, right? So that's 3. Our part-times, my part-time and Hobby Quest, they both come together as well. And they're instructors, so they're only there really to kind of assist me, grab their stuff, and go to the schools. So that's what they're there for. And then if we have the workshops, if there's 8 students, it all depends if parents stay, if they don't stay. It could be between 2 and 3
At a
cars
time.
at a time.
Okay, so reasonably, there would be no more than 8
Exactly.
in this scenario? Okay, thank you.
And also just to add, so in the app, as when appointments are being made, they're done in half-hour, 45-minute increments. So there might be a 10-minute window if there's a car coming, a car arriving and leaving, I should say.
Okay, Counselor Lisi?
Thank you. I think my question is for Mr. Ryan. But what is the exterior lighting look like on the building currently, like in the doorways and then on the side of the building here?
So currently, the lighting, the only lighting we have on the building, when you come in, well, above each entryway on the commercial spaces, there's just a single light fixture. And then
In the doorway area?
in the doorway. And then in the apartment, or entryway into the apartment building, once you walk into the vestibule, there's another lantern there. And the back porches have lighting. Other than that, there is no other lighting, and I don't know when that's. My understanding was if at some point we wanted to add lighting or signage or so on, I think because that's not we would maybe have to come again for certain permissions, maybe through the building department or somebody.
So for signage, you would need a special permit. Although it depends on the size and where you would be putting it. But I think for the non-conforming use, I think we do, as Council Bartley has said over and over, we're always looking to control to the best we can, like the parking, the dumpster, so like the trash, the noise and the lighting around the property.
Yes, and I did speak with the applicants, and I said, I think at some point we may have to, depending on what their plans are for lighting or signage, that we may have to revisit that aspect of it, but we didn't really know how far we were going, so we thought we'd get through this phase.
Yeah, I think especially since you're going to be using off-street parking on the side of the building, which at this point, from what I can see, doesn't have any exterior lighting, it may make sense so that people coming around the corner to get to their cars aren't walking in the dark, especially because it gets dark at 4 p.m. in the winter, and then you're going to 6, 7 o'clock with some of these business hours.
Yeah, we would have no issue in expanding our lighting. As a matter of fact, a number of other properties that we have, it's pretty well lit because we want it lit. We want people to be seen and so on. So
Good, thank you.
adding that is easy enough.
Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak for or against this special permit, or this actually special permit for non-conforming use? Yes, Councilor Bartley.
Actually, just one, to the applicant, I wrote down, you said for the barber shop 10 to 6, but I think on your notes it says 10 to 7 on Thursdays?
Yes,
Okay, so it's 10 to 7, right?
10 to 7.
Okay, so I wrote it down wrong. All right, and then I think, Madam Chair, this special permit is renewed annually?
This is a special permit for use. I
This renewed?
don't
Or is
believe
this
so,
just
but
going forward?
under suspension of rules, if we could ask Crystal to speak to
I
that?
just want to let the applicant know, so. Okay, so one of the things I think this kind of just runs with it, but I'm going
With
to make
this
that.
I
project,
think
with this
use
applicant.
I think it-
goes with this
I think it just
project.
runs, I think it just runs with the applicant. In other words, when you close up, it goes away. But so I'm going to make that motion anyhow, just, but
As a condition?
pending confirmation from the law department, but we won't get that till we meet next Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't think you'll have to come back every year, but
But we'll have to
we
double
need
check.
to clarify.
Okay. Counselor Lisi?
I was just willing to make a motion that we approve it with conditions.
We'll
Okay, I was
close the
just
public
going to
hearing.
ask if
So
we
a
were
motion to
ready
clo-
to.
A motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Oh, Gladys, do you want to speak?
I know that they asked for permit and they kind of put it together. I don't have the packet in front of me, but I don't know if they may wanna, I know that normally our barber shops closes on Mondays, and that's what they did. But just for you to know, you could also take in that day, even if you're not gonna open, just if in case you have to supply your business and whatnot, so you're not restricted from utilizing the premises, but just a thought. Because some people don't know that, and they'll just
Oh.
think that they cannot open on Mondays, and they can. It's their business, they can, just to supply it, I'm just
Oh,
saying.
but they can
okay.
go there.
You can't
Right,
open-
right.
You can't open to the public, that's all.
Right.
But you can go on the building whenever you
Right,
Thank you.
want.
thank you.
All right, so on the motion,
So,
close the public hearing.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the public hearing is closed, and now is there a motion?
I'll make a
by-
motion to approve with conditions.
Okay, and would you like to list the conditions? For discussion?
Sure. For 226 Sergeant Street, that the business hours be 7 days a week. The business days, 7 days a week. The business hours Monday through Friday be 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The business hours on Saturday and Sunday be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
So for,
That's okay. So item 2 on their summary for
Or-
Hobby Quest?
so what I just heard, I thought I heard 7 days a week, 10 to 6, and
Monday through Friday.
they want to be able to open on Saturdays and Sundays at 9. So why don't we just do 9 to 6 throughout the week?
You said 9 to 5.
And that's what,
Yeah.
it's item 2 under Hobby Quest, which is what you read. That's what I heard anyway.
I mean, do you want,
Change.
I mean, I'm just going with what they said.
Yeah, but instead of, restricting,
I'm not restricting. This is what they wanted.
So can we just hear his motion
I mean,
with the conditions and then we can have discussion?
well, aren't we having a discussion on this particular condition?
Sure.
He's making, well, right now, he is making a motion to approve the special permit with conditions.
Yeah.
And he's listing the conditions that he's making a motion on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just kind of followed up what the applicant just said 3 minutes ago, what her requests are, so that was my condition.
So under discussion,
Is there a second on the motion?
we're having a discussion, so we don't have to have.
He made a motion.
We all motioned to approve with conditions, and now we're talking for under
No,
discussion
all
with
we did was
conditions.
close the public hearing. He made a motion to approve the special permit with conditions.
Yes.
So I
And we
need
all
a
second that.
for that.
We all second that.
Okay.
Okay.
So under discussion, we can add other conditions, and we can modify any proposed conditions. Counselor Lisi?
Thank you. So from my point of view, despite the fact that their needs today seem to be 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. for half the week, and then on the weekends, 9 to 5, I'd rather do it neatly and say 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And if they want to adjust their times or hours very slightly within the 1 hour difference on either end, they have the freedom to do that.
So what I hear you saying is not to exceed
An hour.
9 a.m. to 6 p.m., but they could be less than,
Yep,
if they chose to.
exactly. Thank you.
Are there any other conditions that members wish to propose?
It's either going to go on the 226 or the 230, but I think that we should, which is the unit that's closer to the corner?
Hobby Quest.
So then I would say on the Hobby Quest, we should require exterior lighting on the Magnolia Street side.
I'm just noting down for the list. Are there any conditions anyone wants to put forth relative to parking?
I don't think we have the ability to limit the parking. we can, I mean, we don't have a way to limit. If it becomes an issue, I think we're going to have to file separate orders to put up no parking signs or 15-minute parking signs for drop-off, things like that.
Well, except that this is a special permit for use, and partly what caused the continuation of the hearing were concerns about that and the impact it may have. And we have spent quite a lot of time looking at what the maximum would be. And it would seem to me that if we're going to grant this and we're not going to be detrimental to the neighborhood, we would want to make a statement that at any given point, there would be no more than 8 parked cars relative to the businesses. If we're looking to, keep the neighborhood, right. I mean, we're looking for the win-win here. And I would see, the applicants have stated when we asked the busiest scenario that they thought it would be 8. And anything can change, but it seems like if you exceeded the 8, then a lot of other things would need to change. And then we'd need to maybe review the whole thing. So,
So if I may, in other projects, when we're dealing with parking, we usually are making sure that there's a minimum number of spaces available. And it seems that they have the 8 off-street parking spots in the back.
so why don't we address it that way?
But I don't think that we can require them be made into employee parking spaces.
No,
If,
but that they have 8 available spaces for the businesses. We don't need to stipulate how, if the people are at work and the space is available. But I mean, there needs to be availability in whatever way. I mean, it's a special permit, so we can put stipulations. But I'll defer to the will of the committee. Counselor McGivern, you want to weigh in? I see you getting ready.
Well, the whole issue is parking, I think, it comes down to. If you specify that the parking has to be for the businesses, that parking is also for the people who live in the building.
But available.
The people who live in the building will be parking on the street. Councilor Anderson Burgos is going to be back within a year with neighbors that want a parking permit only for the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen. There's not enough room for parking. For 4 barber shops, for 4 chairs, and for a business that brings in people by the hour.
Unless they share the parking, like in the other examples. So we can remain silent on if people prefer.
I think we have done, a very good job along with the applicants in providing evidence that there is, at least for the project they're proposing, adequate parking off and on street between the two of them. And I don't think we can require that the off-street parking spaces be made for the commercial use there, and there's no way we could say that the off-street parking can be limited to the employees.
Limited, no.
So, I mean, I think that what we're going to see is this play out over time, and then we'll wind up putting, 15-minute drop-off only signs and things like that to help keep the traffic situation under control. But
And you will be the point person. Okay, so just to recap, right now we have a motion to approve with conditions, and the conditions are that the hours would not exceed 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week for the Hobby Quest, and that there would be exterior lighting added on the Magnolia Street side.
Mm-hmm.
Not hearing anything else, then it would be all in favor?
Well, did you want to make a motion for the 2:30 or,
yeah, because they're up as a package.
I mean, but
Okay.
by your logic, do you want us to have it 7 days a week? Nothing,
Well,
I mean, is that what you want for uniformity?
I was hearing,
Yeah, that's not what the applicant wants, but, by the same logic, you could just make it 7 days a week then.
they were saying to be,
I know what the applicant said. I repeated what the applicant said
Closed.
verbatim, but it was, for simplicity purposes, I think that was the argument. So, for simplicity purposes, you want to make it 7 days a week for the barber shop.
So for clarification purposes, I will say that the conditions listed were for Hobby Quest. So if members would like to propose other conditions because they are unique businesses, we can do that.
They're two different special permit applications.
Right, we're just taking them up as a package. So I think it would be reasonable
Okay,
to,
so for simplicity purposes, I'm just gonna go with what the applicant said
under parlor fade.
for 2:30, yeah, for Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, 9 to 5, or Thursday, 10 to 7.
Okay,
So in this case, I would say Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 7. Again, just to create,
No, well, okay,
I-
well, I mean, since we're interrupting, I'm gonna say no to that. I won't vote for that, so.
so the applicant is seeking specific hours and to be closed on Sundays and Mondays, and they stated unique reasons for the unique hours. So
We're just talking about parking and all that. That was
Right.
the argument about parking, and now for simplicity, you
Right.
want to go to 7 o'clock? I mean,
right, and so,
it
we
just
have the
flies in the face
motion.
what we just discussed.
So we have the motion to approve the special permit, continuing on with conditions that for the Parlor Faded Company at 2:30, the hours would be 9 to 5, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, with longer hours on Thursdays, 10 to 7, closed Sundays and Mondays. So I would, is there a second for that, to accept that as a condition?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so are there any other conditions that anyone would like to offer for 2:30?
I'd like to put a limit on the 4 chairs,
Okay,
limited to four chairs at the barber shop.
is there a second on that
I'll
condition?
second.
All in favor?
Right?
Aye.
Okay, so at this point, we have a motion to approve with conditions, hours not to exceed 9 AM to 6 PM, 7 days a week for 226, and exterior lighting to be added on Magnolia, and for 2:30, that the hours would be as read, with closing Sundays and Mondays, and that there be a limit to 4 chairs at the barber shop. Anything else? All in favor of the approval with conditions as listed?
Aye.
Aye.
Special permit passes 4-0 and will be recommended to the city council on February 6th.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you. I'll accept a motion and go out of
Motion to
order.
go out of order, take up number 14, table.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, item 14 is a letter from Mayor Morse requesting the Holyoke City Council approve a home rule petition requiring full state reimbursement to the city of Holyoke for charter school expenses based on MGLC 71, Section 89 funding formula. So under our suspension of rules, I need clarification from Crystal on this because we have before us a communication asking us to do this, but we don't really have an actionable item in front of us. We do have members from the school committee here that have information they would like to provide to us on this order. So I
But it wound up in committee, right?
yes.
So I think that we have the ability to utilize this time to get information and forward a request or.
And as I noted, we have members from the school committee who would like to present us
Well,
with
suspend
some
rules,
information.
motion to suspend rules, allow somebody, the city council vice president to speak. I mean,
For a second?
school committee vice
Second.
president to
All
speak.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank,
You're all
sure, as long as you
welcome.
can
You're all
put the
welcome to come in
microphone
here.
on and everybody can know who you are, that's fine.
Don't get comfortable, Debbie.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Share.
So I'll just give you a little bit of background on what we're doing. So Chapter 71, Section 89 deals with the administration of Commonwealth charter schools, Horace Mann charter applications, and enrollment and employees. And specifically Section 89, which is actually letter GG in here, which is on your page 12 out of 19. 13 out of 19. Any district whose total charter school tuition amount is greater than its total charter school tuition amount for the previous year shall be reimbursed by the Commonwealth in accordance with the paragraph and subject to appropriation, provided, however, that no funds for said reimbursement shall be deducted from funds distributed pursuant to Chapter 70. The reimbursement amount shall be equal to 100% of the increase in the year in which the increase occurs and 25% in the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth years following. Pretty much what that means is the first year a student leaves our district or any district in the Commonwealth and goes to a charter school, no matter what grade they're in, it's really loud, the district is reimbursed back 100% of that student, and then for the next 6 years, they get 25%. That's not happening. On the chart that you have in front of you, where it shows, we'll just look at fiscal year 17. So our full funding down at the bottom where it says based on final formulas, it's that bottom row. Had we gotten the 100% of our charter reimbursement like we were entitled to, we would have gotten about 1.5, 1.6 million. That's where it says tuition portion full funding under the 2017. We got 657,000 from the state. The state is, since about 2013, has funded the charter reimbursement line item appropriation at under 70%. It's been as high as 69 and as low as about 66% with that. So Holyoke lost out in 2017, $937,000, and in each subsequent year, about 800,000, 600,000, 700,000, so on, as we look down here. The state changed the way in which they allocate it right around 2012. That's why there's not figures prior to 2012. It was also funded at 100% prior to 2012. So the issue is a fairly new one. So what we're asking, it would not affect any charter school. That's the first thing I will say. There is no impact on charter schools at all with this. What we're asking is that Holyoke, in particular, get their full share amount. And that's what the home rule petition would ask, is for that special legislation that the legislature appropriate the 100%, just as the formula provides. We are asking for no more or no less, but we're asking for our share of what the law says we should get. It's not even in the law as it states by appropriation for the 100%. It says you get the 100%. Springfield, Lowell, I believe Fall River, and I know Plymouth is in process, have all asked for this. Lowell actually has legislation pending. I've spoken to Representative Vega, who obviously on your action is ready to go with this because it is important. And I mean, it's important for two things. Holyoke is losing money because we're not getting what we're supposed to be getting. So whether you believe charter schools take money away from the public schools or not, that's not the discussion here. But we aren't even getting what we should be getting for the money that's going out. And that's the big thing.
This is a Quinn-Bill discussion. Similar.
Similar, but a little bit different. Because, I mean, you think about that last year was over 900,000. Right. We received since October 190 students due to the devastation in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And I mean, that would account, just those students coming, those 190, which Holyoke has the largest percentage in the Commonwealth of students coming, account for over $1.5 million that we don't even receive to help educate them. So you think we don't have the numbers yet for this year, but you think an extra 900,000 last year. We have to come to the council because we have issues with transportation, or we have issues with rent, or we have issues with, you name it. I mean, just if the extra 900,000, think about the orders that we had to have filed for transfers last year. And what that would have meant had we actually gotten that money from the state, in which we're entitled to. Like I said, we're not asking for any more or any less. We're asking for what the law says for us to educate the 5,500 students in the city of Holyoke, we get.
Thank you. Council Bartley?
Okay, thank you. Devin, did I just got a few questions for you, okay? All right.
You were set, right?
I am, yes.
I'll make sure,
Okay.
yeah, I thought you were, but I just.
Wanted to make sure I didn't cut you off.
All right. Okay, so, right, let's just look at, whatever, the 2017.
Sure.
So there's a shortfall there of 937,777?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How's that being made up, or is it?
So, I mean, we get the numbers that come through the cherry sheet with estimates, so we just have to budget without it. So like for fiscal year 17, which that was based off of, in last fiscal year, we just worked without it, and that's why we had to come to the council and ask for money and transfers, and that's why, I mean, during the budget process 2 years ago, we were very open and honest with, when the receiver spoke and Mr. Soto, that, I mean, what we're working with is not going to effectively be able to operate the public schools. I mean, we made some changes. I mean, I talk about rent and I talk about those things, but it also means that, I mean, we have classes, it's not getting certain things for classrooms. It's not being able to expand certain programs. When you think that a teacher costs with benefits probably 63 to 73,000, think about how many extra teachers we could have with that 900,000. Or even at the lowest, I won't use the 92, but even the 641,000, what that could have done when you look at some of these tough budget years that are here, that we could have done with that extra money.
Okay, why did this happen?
The governor and the legislature failed to fund the charter reimbursement account at 100%.
So it's an appropriation issue.
Correct. Okay. And they can, as I say, they can fund it over, but the law says they at least have to fund it at 100.
Okay, so it was really just, it was a budgetary decision between the two branches. Okay, so what's the impact of a home rule petition? What difference is that going to make?
I mean, it would create the special legislation that if passed in the legislature and signed by the governor, that we could actually get our full 100% allocation.
I mean, because right now they have a law, right? This is a law, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's asking, I mean, when you also think about the, if you notice the communities that I mentioned that have been doing this are also gateway cities who are the highest at need, with the exception of Plymouth, but have the highest amount of underperforming schools and are the ones that are really pushing for this, because this is money that we're losing the students the most too with that. I mean, Lowell is probably struggling the most with charter schools and the amount of students they're losing, and they're getting very little back from the state with their reimbursement. So we're asking that we have different students that we need to educate here in Holyoke. We have different needs of our students, and we need that money. I mean, this is the money that the legislature promised us in ed reform, that we would be able to get to educate our students, and we got it up until 2012.
Okay, well, then the last thing I'll just say is that you know, Humison, Vega, and Mike Knappich will be here right where you are. Well, 3 different chairs, so it's those 3 guys, but they'll be right in those same seats on Monday at 6:30. I mean, I think they're going to be making the decisions on this, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have to file if you request it. They don't have the choice not to file.
Well, it's great to file for it. Then there's everything to advocate for it. So.
I mean, I have had extensive conversations with Representative Vega, and he is ready to advocate for this as need be, along with his counterparts from Lowell and Springfield. I mean, they are ready to fight for this, and with the numbers that they may build up amongst them, adding another person to it would help, at least in the House. The communication that came from the school committee also got copied to Senator Humison and Representative Vega, and I know that we sent it to Ryan in October for all of you, and then also again the other day for everyone to get. So he has that. So I mean, it's not unknown to them that this is something the school committee has requested. This is something that the mayor has requested. So we can at least get the funding where it should be, or in a better place, and so we don't have to come to the city. I mean, because in turn, if the state's not going to give us the money, we would have to come to the city to make up that money somewhere.
Thank you.
Councilor Lisi?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thanks for coming down, Devin. Couple of questions. Do you have the language that you'd like us to propose for the home rule petition, or do you have the boilerplates that other communities have filed?
What they filed was exactly what the mayor had. It was a home rule petition for full funding, for 100% funding under the charter reimbursement in his letter.
So you're saying that the correspondence is the form of
Yes, that is what Lowell
the
and
home rule
Springfield.
petition is?
That's correct. I mean, I will also say I'm not a municipal attorney at all, so, I mean.
Well, we'll let Crystal
yeah.
look into that further.
But as far as my understanding from talking to other communities that have done it, and with the mayor, and with Representative Vega, that it seems like simply asking for the 100%
simple
funding.
request.
Yes, that's my understanding, but like I said, I'm not a lawyer, I don't.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I think I want to support this 100%. I mean, I don't really understand how the state can expect Holyoke to perform given all the needs that we have in terms of the numerous different populations that we're serving. I know we have a high number of special needs students as well in our public schools. So I don't understand how they expect us to perform and create MCAS scores that are on par with the rest of the state when they're underfunding our school system by over $1 million. I mean, that's really atrocious to me. So I will definitely help to move this along. Like there's no reason why we should be siphoning money out of the district like this. Thank you.
Counselor McGivern?
I would just speak in support of whatever it takes to get the law that's in place enforced. Charter schools are wonderful for choice for parents, but the funding mechanism is wrong. It's wrong to public schools. It's wrong the way taxpayers' dollars are used, where charter schools will get their full funding for a student that transfers into a charter school, even if they return to a public school during the course of the year. But public schools are punished by a formula that was designed because when students transfer into a charter school, we don't close the classroom because it's not by grade, it's not by class, it's a percentage. So we don't have less teachers because charter schools are open. We have still the cost associated with providing education. Devin, we just need a petition to be put in front of us, and I can't say it's going to be 100% supported, but I would be surprised if it wasn't. But I will be here Monday night and tell our state delegation, we've talked to them about this for years now, and it makes no sense that a gateway city, Holyoke, Lowell, Lawrence, Springfield, any of us, have to ask for what is common sense and should be coming our way without asking. It's shame on the state, for not recognizing, their own law and the intent of their own law and having us beg for money that should be coming for our students. And that's the way I feel about state government at the moment.
Thank you. Counselor Leahy?
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback on Councilor McGivern's comments. And, as Joe was saying, the charter schools get 100%, but yet the public schools aren't getting their fair share. In fact, they're losing. A student goes from a Holyoke public school to a charter school. They get 100% of the money. Then they come back to the public schools, and now we're still we're going to educate them, the best way we can, and we're losing out on that money. It's outside of the box ideas like what Devin's doing here is, and Devin is the one that prompted this too. He's the first person I heard talking about this, so I want to give him props. And other people, I've been hearing some good things about Tony Soto and some busing contracts. So I think we have some more positive things down the road that we're going to be seeing that's going to save the city some money. So thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Lisi?
Thank you. One other question that I have is the district shortage isolated to the charter reimbursement, or are there other revenue streams that are contributing to the district shortage?
There's definitely other revenue streams. So that are contributing to the shortage. I mean, in the foundation budget, which is Chapter 70 that funds education, does not allow for any inflation in healthcare costs. So when you're talking about healthcare costs, the foundation budget does not allow inflation. It sets the rate and that's it. The circuit breaker, which is what reimburses special education, probably hasn't been funded at 100% in I would guess to say at least 6 years, maybe 8 years. So that funding from the state and the circuit breaker comes back at about, I think, 80 to 90% at districts that's coming back. I mean, we are, the funding mechanism in the Commonwealth to fund education is broken, in which we do it. And the legislature spent a lot of time and money on doing a foundation budget review to correct those things. Retiree health insurance costs, cost to educate medically fragile students, the high amount of data being generated in schools to really correct some of those issues. And the legislature and the governor haven't acted yet with that. And I will just say we all heard in the news the other day that the governor has allocated $15 million to help support students that are coming over due to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And whereas I applaud the governor for saying that and doing that, it was a proposal in a budget that hasn't even been released tomorrow yet. It's being released tomorrow that still has to go through both houses and be approved. And that doesn't really account for any money until July 1st, 2018. So these are students that would be counted in our October 1st numbers anyways, that the allocations, we'd be looking for the state to give it. So they're correcting something that's already happening. But there's no retroactive. So the 190 students, the state awarded us $5,000 total, not per student, $5,000 total to help educate the 190 students that came from Puerto Rico and the
This
Virgin
doesn't
Islands.
speak to that.
No, it doesn't. But I'm
So
just,
we need to.
Councilor Lisi just asked,
stay focused.
are there any sources that are underfunding a deficit? So,
Understand. Thank you. Councilor Leahy.
Devin, very excellent presentation. One of the things you said was other communities. So other communities have gone in after the money that they're owed successfully?
yeah, Lowell has a piece of legislation that was filed over the summer that has been done, that's been filed to home rule. Springfield, their school committee sent it to their city council in September, I believe. And I believe that's been acted on, and I have to verify that, and been sent to their legislative delegation. There's one more, there's a town that also did it by vote of town meeting. It was a unanimous vote of town meeting that did it as well for that home rule petition.
So what happens, so hypothetically we do this, and I can't imagine somebody voting against it, and nothing happens. Would our next steps be through the courts?
March.
I mean, yes.
Take to the
I mean,
streets.
and it would be through the courts as a more of a school funding issue than, I mean, you could focus on charters, but I mean, the legs are as full funding because the charter reimbursement is part of Chapter 70. So it would be more of full funding. And I mean, Fall River, Brockton has already allocated over $100,000 to actually file suit against the Commonwealth for underfunding of education.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Have you known of anyone yet who probably got retroactive at all? Like, will they give us retroactive, or it'll start from the moment that it passes?
I can't imagine it'll be retroactive. I'm not even asking for that. I mean, it's really not. The intent is not to look for money from the back, because I know that just is not even conceivable. It would be pie in the sky to be able to get money that we were owed, but it's more let's correct it for July 1. I mean, it's not even anything I wanted. I would have loved it, but I mean, let's just do it moving forward and make us whole.
So I'll make a motion, we approve this and put it in legal form.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming down and providing us with the.
Yeah, thank you. And
Very good summary.
I did forget to mention Mildred Lefebvre and Irene Feliciano
yes,
came
yes,
out
we
too
did see her
from the
here.
school committee. So I just was going to mention them in the beginning. I'm sorry, ladies.
Give credit where credit's due. Thank you. So going back to regular order, item 4.
Mike?
So,
Make a motion to take number 4 off table?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, filed by Counselor Bartley, that the city install a crosswalk from Blessed Sacrament Church to the Messier parking lot across Northampton Street near Carlton Street. This is a constituent request. Mike has given us his summary sheet.
For Nelson. Okay.
thank you for this, Mike. It's very helpful. Thanks for coming down, Mike.
Thank you. It's so for this intersection at Carlton Street, where Carlton Street comes into Northampton Street, you know, we could put in a curb cut and a crosswalk. My concern with that is that it would be a mid-block crosswalk. And it's relatively close to an existing intersection with a traffic signal. And in order to do it so that pedestrians would be protected, we would need additional signaling at that crosswalk, which would be one of those flashing beacons. It's something we could do. An estimate to do that would be around $8,000. At the intersection of Westfield Road and Northampton Street, where the traffic signal is, there are existing pedestrian heads, and they do function, except one of the lenses is currently burnt out, crossing Northampton Street. And the existing handicap ramps don't meet current ADA compliance. There aren't the truncated domes at the landing. And then for the crossing on Westfield Street, the handicap access is too far away from the push button to meet ADA requirements. So we would need to do some work at that intersection as well. And as you know, since it's existing infrastructure, we should be doing that work anyway to maintain our current system. And our estimate to get the pedestrian crossing at that intersection up to code is around $3,000.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I really don't have a dog in this fight, but and if it's going to save a little bit of money and improve the current one, plus that particular area, I don't know if I'd really like to have to install a rapper's flashing beacon. I don't know if I'd really want that there. Just aesthetically, it wouldn't really do it for me, but is there any hope that we can improve the existing intersection?
Oh yeah, definitely. We can definitely do that.
And there is kind of a mid-block, actually two of them almost, well, just a little bit north of that, as far as crosswalks go, right?
There is, yeah, coming from the driveways.
Yeah, the driveway, one at Blessed Sacrament, the other one at the center school. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how well they're maintained or how well they're used. You know, these are just people that kind of live in the Elmwood Towers area or Carlton Street that, you know, basically cross the street going to the church or leaving the church. I mean, that's primarily
Right.
And that'd be a constituency. So
I've crossed the street at that exact same spot.
Yeah, they really won't walk down to you. I mean, I'm glad that we can improve the infrastructure, the existing one. That makes a lot of sense. I'm pretty confident that they're not going to walk down to
200 feet.
Yeah, because I just have never, in going there for the last 40 years, I just never noticed that occurring. So
No, I agree with you, and I've jaywalked as well.
it's one of those things. It's almost I really appreciate looking into it, Mike. I'm agnostic to it, really, whether that makes sense or not. I wouldn't. If you don't think it makes sense, then I certainly don't want to push back. Other than to say I'm glad you looked into it, and I hope we can improve what's there going forward. And if another safety idea comes to mind as to what to do for people crossing that street, that very busy street, before the various church services, perhaps you can suggest it at some point.
Sure.
So I'll leave it at that. So,
Not seeing anything.
no, just
Would
make a
you like
motion,
to offer a
make a motion comply with.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion, take up number 5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 5, filed by Counselor Leahy, order that DPW give Roberts Field a street number. There's too much confusion when people put the address into a GPS.
So Roberts Field is kind of, I don't know, it's a name for something that doesn't really exist. What we have is the Arthur H. Roberts Sports Complex.
Oh, right.
And that sports complex includes the John F. Gilligan Field, which is the football field, and soccer and lacrosse and all of that. It includes the Bill and Eileen Kane track, which goes around the football field. It includes McKenzie Stadium and the James Athis Baseball Diamond at McKenzie Stadium, the John Young Softball Field, the Morneau Tennis Courts, and then unnamed basketball courts, the volleyball court, and a grass practice field for the high school.
I want something named after Joe McGivern. Dagnabbit.
You went to Hoyok Catholic.
I veto that.
So all of that makes up the Roberts Sports Complex, and I think over time we just refer to the football field as Roberts Field.
So it's created confusion.
It's creating confusion, and we're looking into a way of getting that fixed, either in the GPS system and the engineering department. We think we found a way where we can kind of say that this area is Roberts Field.
Oh, you can
We'll
name
just say
it
it's
in the
Roberts
system?
Field, yeah, because people refer to it as Roberts Field.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we would give Roberts Field an address of 86 Resnick Boulevard. That's the address of the Gilligan Field. And if you type that into Google, it'll bring you up that back driveway into where the football field is. So I'm hoping that within the next few days, we'll be able to get that done.
Great. Counselor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing this. I'm sure you know the scenario and why I filed this order. A young child was hurt pretty severely, and all the parents and players literally watched Action Ambulance drive around the block a few times before Action Ambulance got there. And I had a similar situation happen to my neighbor, November 19th, my wife's birthday and my birthday. We were picking up my neighbor to go to dinner, and she fell and broke her hip, and Action Ambulance, because of the way, whatever GPS system they use, they drove by us as we were waving, and they were looking at their GPS and drove to the end of the street, and literally drove around Park Slope and that area. I couldn't believe it. So I'm not exactly sure what GPS system they're using, but it's not working. My question for you is, so say, this passes, and I hope it does, we give this address to the field. How does all the GPSs in the world know about that?
I'm not sure. It's we used to notify E911, which was Enhanced 911, and that was the system where we would give a location and address. Okay. But now, with so many different systems, and that was always based on a landline. And, now the prevalence of landlines is diminishing with cell phone usage. So there is a new, there's a website with the state of Massachusetts where you can kind of force this.
Oh, good. Okay, so there is a way.
Yeah.
And, just a side note too, the Holyoke St. Patrick's Parade Committee just named Archie Roberts' son as their JFK award winner. So he'll be coming into the city of Holyoke, which I think is pretty unique. But I thank you for taking this up, and hopefully this passes. Thank you.
So if we just call this complied with, can you go ahead and just implement it?
Yes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Counselor McGivern?
Sorry, I gotta step
That's
out.
okay. Under discussion, we only have.
This is related and not really Mike's responsibility, but Mike, in the incident Councilor Leahy was talking about, dispatch had to be involved out of the police department at one point. And could you relate to them as to find out, correcting GPS, I think, is a big part of the answer, but how dispatch doesn't know where Roberts Field Complex is beyond me.
So the story I heard was that when the call went in, and I wasn't there, I haven't heard the dispatch recording, but when the call went in to 911, they said a hockey player was hurt behind the school. So then,
The field hockey player.
well, the field, what I heard was field was left out, and it was just a hockey player was hurt behind the
Okay.
school. So then they went and they said, well, a hockey player was hurt in Holyoke. Where's there a hockey rink? Fitzpatrick. So they went to Fitzpatrick, they drove around, they didn't see anybody, then that's behind the school, so let's go to the school. And
That answers my question.
That actually makes more sense now than,
It does, yeah.
we couldn't find Roberts Field, because they couldn't find Roberts Field because the call came in, left out kind of a key.
but that's what I've
Key
heard.
component.
I haven't heard the
So
dispatch
that actually makes a
reporting.
lot more sense.
Okay.
As a father of a former field hockey player, I understand. That's probably how I would have said it.
Okay. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Motion to take up number 6.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 6, filed by Counselor Lisi, that the DPW superintendent assess the placement of a signalized crosswalk near the Homestead Ave entrance to Holyoke Community College. We have taken this up in the past, and we know it's in process, but I guess we just were interested in your update.
So I must have deleted it from this list, but we did get a proposal from McMahon Engineers to do a traffic signal warrant analysis at that intersection. And what that would do is tell us whether or not we need to improve the existing red, yellow flashing signal with a green, yellow, red type of traffic signal. And if that's the case, we will put in pedestrian access. And if no traffic signal is warranted, then we would go with a rapid flashing beacon style pedestrian crossing at that location.
So where's that now, Mike, in the process?
We got the proposal, so now we're allocating funds and having it signed by all the parties in the city so that they can start the work.
Well, how much was the proposal?
It was around $8,000.
Oh. Okay, that was a lot lower than you thought. At least that's what you...
Yeah, and it's just the warrant analysis. It's not
an
design of
analyze
anything.
it.
It's just to see if a signal is necessary or not. And they need to do it while kids are in school, so they can do traffic counts. And it's it's a complicated intersection with cars coming in and then making left-hand turns and right-hand turns, and cars coming from multiple directions leaving the school.
So when will they start, and how long will the study be?
They'll probably start sometime in February, and I'd expect 8 to 10 weeks to do all the work and write a memo report, submit it to the city.
And then what happens?
So then if we need a traffic signal, that would be a bigger nut for the design of that. And we'll probably be, if that's the case, we'll be looking to have another meeting at the college.
Thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Counselor Lisi, what is your pleasure on this? Do you want to keep it on the table so that we periodically get an update?
Yeah, I think we should keep it on the table and hear back from Mike when the traffic signal warrant analysis is completed, and then see if we could keep on moving forward from there.
So you think to the end of February?
Well, I would say
You
if it's going to
have
be,
an idea?
it would be 8 weeks.
Yeah, I would say
After February.
sometime in March.
So the end of March?
March, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to table this item until the end of March. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What,
I know motion's table aren't debatable.
Right.
Can I just interject?
you can make a comment.
Well, I think this is kind of this is kind of a significant milestone, and I think people are interested in this. So if we leave it in committee.
Oh, you're saying nothing will be reported out at the council?
Well, I mean, it won't. So, I mean, I think it's a good order. Obviously, I've supported it, and obviously, I've kind of followed up on it myself. So, I mean, after the study comes back, Mike, can't you kind of come back to us with a...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I
definitely.
still think
Things
that
get
the order says that the superintendent assess the placement of a signal, and so I want to hear what the assessment is
Right,
with
and
that.
then, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the motion, all in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Motion to take up number 7.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 7, filed by Counselor McGivern, order that the city council look into creating a parking authority. We did have some discussion on this, but we were looking forward to your input, given all the problems.
And the last 2 pages, I thought it was ordinance language already for a parking authority, but it's a parking advisory board. Which I talked with Bill Fuquay about it a little bit, and he said that it was in place for a while, and then it kind of dissolved during Mike Sullivan's tenure.
Was it officially dissolved, or it just was not appointed?
You know, I'm not really sure if it was officially dissolved. It's still in the Code of Ordinances.
Then it's not officially dissolved. It's just not appointed.
Okay.
But I'm not really sure what the Parking Advisory Board functioned as and what a true parking authority would do. Look, with the authority, I think that would entail an enterprise fund, a revolving fund where the revenues that came in from parking would then go to maintenance of parking assets.
Counselor McGivern, do you want to weigh in on what your intent was?
Yes.
with that?
Mike and I have talked about this more than once, including earlier today, and the intent is to resolve an ongoing problem, which I don't think I have to repeat every time we bring this up, but, you know, it's a serious situation where we are losing revenue, much needed revenue, you know, for parking, but for the city itself. And we are not, at the moment, providing adequate parking for what we're trying and attempting to do, especially in the downtown area in relation to the parking decks and the outlining smaller lots that are there for both people who work downtown, who own businesses downtown, and people who come downtown for purposes of shopping, restaurants, and so on. Plus, and added to that is not just the decks, but the issues with the parking meters, which is I think, been an ongoing problem, but has escalated in the last couple of years. We're relying upon a management company, and, you know, this started with Bill Fuqua, you know, to monitor all this and to oversee all this, and in my opinion, it doesn't work. And my intent is, and I don't think we can ask the DPW to do the whole thing by themselves without creating something within the DPW that would have the authority to oversee the parking situation, and plus, you know, some manpower to do it. We're paying for manpower, you know, if we dissolve the contract and take the money we're paying for a contract and the revenue, the revenue that should be coming in either way, you know, we would, I think we would see a small profit each year if it was done correctly.
That's what I was getting after. So really, the intent of your order would be to change the parking advisory board into a true authority.
Yes, I forgot about the advisory board. It was well intended, and the odd thing about, you know, Councilor Reagan, it's a good point, is that when we did the review of downtown parking, you know, quote unquote, the Chamber of Commerce was very much involved. There were people that weren't members of the Chamber of Commerce that owned businesses that were involved, and there were residents throughout the area that were involved. Recently, it's you know, the Chamber hasn't weighed in on this. I've called them, has not weighed in on this at all, and we've changed things. You know, residents outside of, you know, Councilor Brown Martinez is, you know, trying to help out with Lyman Terrace in terms of residential parking. You know, residents have not really been, you know, very present in terms of what's going on. What's happening is we're putting Band-Aids on a situation where property tax dollars is going into downtown parking, which should be paying for itself. It's, it was never, we used to, even with the old rates, raise close to $100,000 a year. You know, and we can easily spend that in maintenance, and the old way we used to have, before the contracts, we used to have people, you know, man the booths at each of the parking decks themselves, and the contracts just didn't replace that. The machines replaced that. Machines are down.
For months.
You know, and I mean, that's, you know, not gonna hindsight or second guess what, Bill Fuqua did, but the machines were a waste of money, and we are losing money. But there is one thing, if I could ask, and it's related because I think it might fall into what we're trying to do, or it might be an alternate solution, is Mike is entered into, right behind us here on High Street, into I guess I would call it an experiment with a vendor in terms of parking meters, which could also fall into what we do on the decks.
So we're currently doing a pilot program with a vendor of this type of parking meter that's out there. They're smart meters. They can be programmed easily. They take credit cards. And what the program is, they're looking to see, you know, how much revenue could be generated in Holyoke. These types of meters automatically zero out. So if a car comes in and they put $1 in and they use the spot for 5 minutes and then they pull away, the meter automatically zeros.
Oh,
So
really?
that the next person that
You don't
comes
even
in,
continue.
That's simple. I like it though.
there's cameras in these meters so that they can recognize the license plate when the car pulls up, so that if they never put any money in the meter and they stay for 15 minutes and then drive away, there's a way of tracking them through the registry to send them a ticket.
Like the Mass Pike.
And then they also have other features, like there's advertisement where the city could sell advertisement. With their pilot program, they're demonstrating that they can increase the revenue compared to the types of meters that we have out on the street right now. And what they would propose is a 10-year contract with the city where they replace all of our old meters with that. And then, you know, in that delta, in that increased revenue that would be generated, would be some sharing, and that's what would pay for the new parking meters. That would cover the capital cost. So the city wouldn't incur any capital cost. We wouldn't incur any cost for credit card transactions, things like that. And then we would still be able to realize some of that increased revenue that comes in from the use of these machines. We would still have to do some limited maintenance on them, changing batteries and removing coins from the machine. But with this contract, if something, my understanding of the contract, we haven't seen any contract. We're still kind of just fleshing out what this type of program would be. If somebody stole them or drove over them or something like that, then the city wouldn't be on the hook for replacing the meter. So this is a way of kind of updating our infrastructure for parking meters.
Without a bond.
Without a bond.
So theoretically, if we were moving forward with the concept of a parking authority versus a parking advisory board, would you see this meter aspect under the parking authority, or this contract would stay under DPW and the garages would be under the parking authority?
You know, it could be either way, because we would still need somebody to empty the machines and do the basic maintenance.
Okay. So do you have any other recommendations to the committee relative to a parking authority and what that might look like?
Not at this time, because I mean, the financials are still all over the place, and
Right.
I don't really know what a parking authority would consist of.
Hey, when I say parking authority, don't get confused. I don't expect the authority to have its own board. I think the DPW commission, I think even the handicap advisory board could become a parking authority. It could become a full advisory parking, committee itself. But I see it, most parking authorities in a larger metropolitan area, have someone under them, and, the policy setting is the board. But I think what we have in place is fine for policy setting, the commission, which means Mike is the policy setter with the help of the city council.
Okay.
But I think we do need someone who is elevated, into a management position that comes under probably, I would suggest, comes under the position that Mike has now, that runs everything, that oversees it. And when I say management, I mean it could be someone that could be out there that, can issue tickets, run, oversee whatever maintenance there is being done, make sure the checks and balances are there for the collecting of the coins and the money itself. I like the idea of more plastic being used, because it scares me, the money that comes out of these meters, and the machine that we used to use that Bill told us was foolproof doesn't work anymore. So now it's kind of on a loyalty trust basis with the people who work for the management company who do this. So there's so much room for improvement, and that's it's broad based, but I don't want to create more than we have to, because I think the key is at some point get back to making some type of profit, but more important, paying off the bond for the 2 parking decks, the capital improvements that we need in terms of the meters, and the ongoing maintenance, should come from parking revenue and not from property tax dollars.
So I guess the committee needs a little bit of clarity as to what we would actually create, because anything around staffing would be the mayor.
Yep.
And so we would only be able to focus on structure. So I guess we just need a little more information as to what that structure would look like.
I agree, and I don't think we're ready to make that decision until we know the numbers.
Right.
I was talking to Mike this afternoon, and I said, unfortunately, we, did a lot of work on adjusting the parking rates themselves, but we have no clue.
Right.
Because we're not getting the money that we should be getting, because 2 machines are not collecting
Exactly.
daily parking, and parking meters are
Or
20%, 30% down, or there's still like 54 meters that are not,
Right.
not working.
But the garages are the bigger problem, aren't they? Or
The garage, if you go to the Suffolk Street deck for daily parkers, which is a lot, if you went there at noontime, you'll see anywhere from 80 to 120 cars parked there for free. And that's the
not
gist
what
of
we
it.
were going for.
And people who, may choose a monthly pass, are starting to look at that and saying, what's going on?
Right.
It used to be a mixed over on Dwight Street, because that's where I used to park. And because the machine could not handle the daily input, only the people with cards can go over there. But that really hurts the Children's Museum, the park, and sometimes City Hall events, because there's no really, not only just being convenient, there's no daily parking, offered unless you go to Suffolk Street.
So Mike, do you have an update on those ticket machines?
So for the parking garage over here on Dwight Street, the problem with it is in the bill note recycler. So that's the component where if you put $5 in, it'll spit back $3 and some coins. That device does not work. The rest of the machine works with the monthly passes, which is why we've made it monthly only.
Okay, for Dwight.
For Dwight. And over at Suffolk, it's the same situation. The bill note recycler was damaged, and the doors were damaged at both of them.
It was
And then
vandalism?
from vandalism, and this is back in October.
So
So there was vandalism early last year, and we spent some money to get it fixed, and it went back up, and it was operational for a couple of months, and then it was vandalized again.
Do we have cameras out there?
We do not have cameras out there, and there's
Seems like we need a person out there.
so the latest with it is we had the vendor come out a week ago. They looked at it. They were prepared to fix a couple of things, but when they got into it, there's still more that they think that they say needs to be fixed, and they're looking for another $40,000 to fix both stations.
So is the vendors under the contract supposed to be responsible for fixing them or maintaining them or?
Under the contract with our parking management company, they're responsible for minor maintenance.
Oh, but
something.
not
And there's
vandalism.
Right, I think it's a $5,000 limit, or something that has a life expectancy of 5 years or more. It's considered a capital expense, and that's on the city to take care of.
So what would your recommendation be relative to the Suffolk garage?
Well, if we want to keep doing it the way we were doing it, we're gonna have to spend this $40,000 to get the machines fixed. My concern is we do that, and then a couple of months go by and somebody damages
It's
it
gonna be a
again.
revenge of this rodeo twice,
Right.
right?
So then we're starting to talk with the parking management company about putting somebody out there. You know, what would it cost to re-erect the booth and have somebody stationed there?
Okay. All right,
But that is gonna be an additional cost.
right.
And then we have to look at it at the end of the day, is it worth it to have somebody sitting in a booth for the number of cars? There might be 80 cars parked there for free on a daily basis, but if they have to start paying,
You have to run the numbers and, yeah.
then it might be down to 60 cars or fewer.
I'm more of an optimist, because if we put these meters in the pilot program around downtown, we're gonna see a lot more cars on Suffolk Street. Because I can tell you right now, people who work downtown play beat the meter. You know, they park in front of their store, you know, they got eyes everywhere, they make phone calls, Dan's walking down the street, you'll put some money in the meter. You're only supposed to be at a meter for 2 hours.
Right.
What I love about these new meters is 2 hours, you're out, or you get a ticket.
Yeah.
It's not you go put more money in and they can't tell how long you've been there. It tells you, here's your ticket.
And the meters would know that. We can also extend the duration of parking. So right now, you know, we stop it at
okay.
4, but we could keep it until 6 or later at night.
How about if we put the meters in the garage?
There is a possibility of doing something like
Would that
We just need to make sure whatever we do in the garage would gel with people who do have the monthly
Right.
parking pass.
Right.
And these meters even have the possibility of doing event-type fee increases.
So maybe there could be
Or
like a monthly
decrease it.
parking area limited. It's what you see in Boston a lot, you know?
Right.
Reserve monthly and then,
I can make a suggestion. I think it all goes hand in hand. Before we make a decision on quote-unquote authority, which to me really means getting rid of the management company, which means putting the booths back up and hiring 2 people for the garages to collect money. Okay, people don't get vandalized. All right, and to me, I think looking at that without looking at the meters, you know, isn't seeing the whole picture. The pilot program, the proposal is intriguing, but I think what I'd like to see is what the actual numbers are. 10 years is a long
The pro
time, and what the
forma, yeah.
profit sharing is during that 10-year period, because we still have to generate the revenue for daily maintenance, for ongoing maintenance, and for paying the bond off
Yeah.
for the 2 decks.
right. So,
Just one last
oh,
final
Counselor
question.
Lisi.
One final question about the vendor that's doing the pilot program. Do they have the ability to pay by app, like a phone app?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and there's other apps where if, let's say we had the whole city with them, where it would show you where an open spot is.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's-
Yes, Counselor Anderson Burgos.
You said that when you pay and if you leave early, the meter knows when the car left and it'll reset.
Correct.
Does it refund the amount of money that was not used back to the person, the original person who put in?
It does not.
It does not. That's all I wanted to know.
So, Counselor McGivern, what is your pleasure with this?
Well, if I could ask the committee to keep it on the table and, you know, maybe when the pilot program shows us some numbers and if it's something that Mike, you know, wishes to go forward with, you know, we can see a proposal from them. You know, if that makes sense, it may kind of answer a lot of our questions or a lot of our concerns. And if not, then, you know, I'd really be pushing to getting rid of the management company and going to something in-house. I think even with the hiring of 2 people in-house, I mean, right now, Mike, what's the management company get per year, or what did Valet get last year?
It's about 120,000
Yeah,
per
they had
year.
$120,000, and we're not even talking about collecting the money at the gates. So if the new contract comes out in that area, and then they want to pay for 2 people, it makes no sense. It's getting too cost prohibitive to go through a management company. It'll make a lot more sense, I think, to start doing it ourselves, but not without putting the right people, you know, under, you know, city employees under the DPW.
And, you know, in their defense, they do more than just collect coins out of the on-street parking meters. They do maintain the database of monthly parkers. They send out bills. They run all of the payments for the monthly parkers. They do maintenance on the garages to try to keep them clean to the best that they can.
So it's a bigger cost analysis.
Yeah, they do landscaping and trash removal, but the larger things that
They
we're
do
concerned
housekeeping
about-
for the 2 homeless people that have their beds set up in the stairwell at the bottom of Dwight Street here.
Are you all set?
Yeah, one
Counselor
second,
Bartley.
one second, I'll make a motion to table, but I think you have, I think you have a template that we've already used for the last 4 years now on St. Patrick's weekend. You know, it's $5 a car, have somebody collect them when they come in, and then, you know, stay there for 4 hours and wrap it up. I mean, why in the world is that hard? You know, stand there at the front of, on Front Street, stand there on Division Street for 4 hours, collect the $5 per car. Either you want to park there or not. You don't want to park there, go away. I mean, there it is. I mean, you can't get much simpler than that. And yeah, you can collect revenue. They come in for however long they're there and they go. End of story. But that's probably too simple. Motion to table.
So, would the end of March be a reasonable time
Oh, yeah, I'd say so.
for
yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take up number 8, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 8, filed by Counselor McGee, ordered that the handicap parking sign near 970 Hamden Street be moved back away from the driveway as it's becoming a safety hazard for the homeowner.
So I didn't look into, you know, where the handicap signs came about, but there's 2 handicap signs right there, and there's enough room where we could just move them back 5 feet.
So were the measurements correct and the signs were just put up wrong, or do we need new ordinance measurements to fix this?
I think the signs are where the measurements
So we have to
were.
fix the
Yeah,
measurements?
and looking at, you know, going into Google, right, you can look at the historical street view, and those 2 handicap spaces were there 10 years ago.
Okay.
So, in the same spot where they are today. Well, we can revise the language so that it's, you know, 5 feet.
Make a motion to revise the language so it complies with new measurements, put in legal
Second.
form.
All in favor? Aye.
Motion to take up number 9, please.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 9, filed by Council Roman, ordered that resident-only parking be established on Ivy Avenue in Holyoke.
Do you want to say anything about Ivy, or?
Don't we need a petition?
You know, it's a short street, and there's a lot of demand for residential parking, and also I think there's a store at the corner of Ivy and Dwight that has a lot. I think recently we did a, was it a
Handicap,
loading?
right?
Well, there was a handicap, but there was also, I thought we did a no parking loading zone
You did.
for that.
Yes, you did.
Store.
President Ham wanted that.
But if you want, we can post resident-only parking signs.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Council Roman?
This was a constituent request. I've just been getting calls from 2 or 3 other constituents on the street for that same reason. The store, when the store is in hours or even after store hours, it's a small street. So I just got 2 or 3 calls on it. They asked if I'd file it, and I filed it.
Well, I mean, as a practical matter, my question would be, well, where are the people going to park that go to the store?
I think they would
Does it
have to
have a
park on
parking lot?
Dwight. Because you have stores, and then you have the one store on the corner there, but you also have the store. There's a couple of commercial businesses across the street.
What, is that Ward 6? Yeah. Do you want to go ask the neighbors, Juan?
Yeah, I don't
I would defer to the ward council.
Well, no, I mean,
because,
I can file a warrant, but I mean, you might want to talk, I would
Terms
like
of
to, I like to
follow-up.
table this for 2 weeks and, or till we next meet, and then, have the Ward 6 councilor come back after doing a little due diligence. Is that okay, Juan?
Yeah. Like
Okay, Nelson?
And I think we need to review the process on the resident-only parking stickers, too, if we're going to have that. Right? That
Right.
requires, doesn't that require the whole list and everything that we've been going through with the clerk's office and that? Is that same process?
Yeah, we would just amend it.
Yeah?
We would just amend that ordinance, just add it, so.
Okay.
I think it'd be easy to do, but I just want to make sure they're good to go over
They
there with
want
that.
it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you gotta be sensitive to the businessman, too.
Well, right. So try to avoid setting up conflicts, but.
Yeah, so I'll
All right.
motion table for,
I-
okay, thank you. Motion taken number 10?
1 second. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Filed by Council Roman that a no parking sign across the street from the driveway of 25 Arthur Street, request of the property owner.
So this is another very narrow street. And with Arthur Street, you have the eastern side and the western side. I think it's the western side where there's a steep grade with the houses set up on hills. There's a lot of on-street parking. And anyway, to do a no parking, this would be the language to put in. What it is a person has a steep driveway, and he has concerns about trying to
Hard to
back
get
out
out.
of his driveway if his neighbors.
Motion to adopt and put in legal form.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take up number 11?
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 11, filed by Counselor Greenie, that DPW places a stop sign at the intersection of Judith Street and Sheehan Drive. There have been multiple instances of near collisions with cars turning from Judith Street onto Sheehan Drive without stopping. This is a constituent request.
So we're gonna do a stop sign warrant analysis. We'll do a traffic count. We haven't done it yet.
Okay, so motion to table pending a traffic count. How much time do you need, Mike? A month or so, or?
Oh, yeah, I would say a month.
Okay.
We'll have it, we'll start it this week.
So end of
So,
February?
Yeah, by the next ordinance committee meeting that you invite me to.
I'm going to try to keep on the schedule of the last
You're always invited, Mike.
Yeah.
meeting of the month,
Hey,
if
come all
that
the
works
time.
for you. We had a pretty good schedule going there, I think, for a while.
Right.
Then things got a little crazy.
End of year.
Yeah, but you want to stay with that?
Yeah,
And then
that
I'll
works.
plan on keeping as much as I can for you on the last meeting of the
Sure.
month. All right. Okay, so,
Take up number 12?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Filed by Counselor Bartley that DPW consider a four-way stop sign at Washington Avenue, Charles Street intersection.
So we did a traffic study here, and I think there already is a stop sign on Charles Street.
Correct.
It's just, you have the through traffic on Washington Avenue. Now, what we found was that there was an average of about 117 cars per day on Charles Street, and then on Washington Street, we had 595 cars per day. And the study kind of showed that that 85th percentile for speed, I think going from memory for Washington Street was like 28 miles per hour, and Charles Street was around 26 miles per hour. So they were lower than 30 miles per hour. But then the guideline for when you put stop signs in, and for all traffic control devices, is the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And there's an excerpt from that on multi-way stop applications.
Oh, thank you
and their
for
guidelines
including that.
on when they're appropriate. And what they say is that you should use a multi-way stop when you have two roads with an equivalent volume of traffic. Because when two roads have the same amount of traffic, there's really no clear way on which way is the main road and which way is the minor road. Where here, it's clear that Washington is the main road and Charles Street is the minor road. So what the MUTCD recommends is you put stops on the minor road and you allow the main road to be through to traffic. There's also other requirements for multi-way stops in volume per hour, where there needs to be a significantly amount larger volume than what we're seeing on either one of these streets, where speeds are excessive. But when you boil it all down, this intersection doesn't meet the requirements for a multi-way stop. So we would recommend keeping it the way it is now, with the stop on Charles and the through on Washington.
But it was considered.
Yeah, I would only say that there's just a unique turn
Right.
where Chapin kind of merges into Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're looking at cross streets that kind of just go straight. One makes a very sharp turn, depending which way you're going, to the left or to the right, which way you're headed. But so that was why it was kind of brought to my attention.
Okay.
So it seemed like there was people going around that bend. Seemed like they were. People coming on Charles Street weren't aware often of people coming around the bend. Now, I guess there aren't as many crashes, so maybe there's near misses, and so you can't calculate near misses. So,
Right.
So that's why it was brought to my attention, Mike. But again, whatever the standards are, the standards. I don't want to push back, but if people bring it to me, I think they're bringing it to me for a reason, and the reason is probably because there's a lot of near misses there. So, with that being said, and if the book doesn't say put a stop sign because that's what the book says, but I don't think the book takes into account there's a sharp curve. So
Right. The book does take into account crashes. So, and
Yeah, but it can't
that's
take-
something I haven't looked
Right.
into, is how many crashes, how many accidents have occurred at that intersection. And I think there's a number of 5 accidents within a certain period of time. Then it might warrant.
Well,
Stop.
maybe we could at least
Table it?
maybe let's just table it and then maybe take a look at the accidents. I mean,
Okay.
I don't want to deviate from the book per se, but if, once you go on that street again, Mike, over the course of next month,
Yeah.
once you turn onto Chapin off of South Street, then you can come around that curve yourself.
No, I'm familiar with it. And we can look at it.
All right, so we'll just motion to table till for another month.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to take up number 13?
All in favor?
Aye.
Filed by Counselor Bartley and Counselor LeBron Martinez, establish one 15-minute parking-only parking space in front of Easy Pick Convenience located at 224 Lyman Street.
So this will be the language to put a sign in.
Motion to approve the language for legal form?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's the end of the line?
That's it.
Motion to adjourn, I think.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good job, Lauren.
First thing I want to say aye.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the end of February.
Yep, see you, Mike.
March?
Pardon?
Never mind. No, that was,
Some of them are.
the parking is March.
Okay, just for planning purposes, our next meeting will be on the 13th,
Sounds good. Keep it rolling.
the Tuesday following the city council meeting,
Right,
6:30.
6:30.
Now, if you
We'll
want to
keep it
meet for
rolling, Mike.
orientation, 6 PM,
Roger that.
put it in your,
Tuesday,
do you have your phone?
Tuesday, yeah.
I don't have my phone.
Tuesday's like, that's something.
Do you have your
sacred.
phone?
That's sacred. That's your time.
I'm like, what? I got
That's Nelson time,
a
yes.
Tuesday off?
Yeah, absolutely, that's. Four Tuesdays a month is, yeah.
So that's what it says.
Mike. Very nice to meet you. Shake it up. It's fine. It's all right.